Good morning everyone. In the today's class we will be discussing regarding Hardy-Weinberg principle and factors affecting Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. So first let us discuss regarding the Hardy-Weinberg principle. So Hardy-Weinberg's principle states that any frequencies in the population are stable and is constant from generation to generation, and also the gene pool is constant. Right? So what does the Hardy-Weinberg principle states is allele frequencies in the population are stable and is constant from generation to generation, and also the gene pool is constant. So every population is having certain number of genes and the particular genes are having the alleles. So these alleles are going to have a frequency and this frequency is going to remain constant, and also it is stable and it is going to transfer from one generation to another generation, right? And also the gene pool is constant. So what do you mean by gene pool? Means the sum total of all the genes and their alleles in a population is called as a gene pool, right? So to understand this Hardy-Weinberg principle better, so he has also given an equation which is called as a Hardy-Weinberg equation. So the equation is p square plus 2pq plus q square equals to 1. So the Hardy-Weinberg principle is Hardy-Weinberg's equation is p square plus 2pq plus q square is equal to 1. So this is going to indicate the genetic equilibrium. So this is called as a genetic equilibrium. So in a diploid organism, means the chromosomes are present in two sets. So those are called as a diploid organisms, or they are the two-end organisms. So in the diploid organisms, the allele A and allele A. So these are represented by the letter P and Q. So the organisms or the individuals with the AA frequencies are represented by P square, and the individuals with AA frequencies are represented by Q square, and the individuals with the capital A and small a frequencies are represented with 2pq. Means here the p is going to represent the dominant one, small q the recessive one, and pq the heterozygous individual or a heterozygous organism. Right? So all these frequencies of the alleles is calculated by using the formula p square plus 2pq plus q square is equal to 1. So which is a genetic equilibrium. Right? So suppose if the frequency level alleles, means whenever the allele frequency is calculated and if the value is going to be different from the value 1, so then it symbolizes or it indicates that there is a evolution is taking place, right? So suppose the sum of this p square, means all the alleles or all the genes in a pool is going to be 1, so then it is called as a genetic equilibrium. Or else if we get a value other than 1, suppose when we calculate the frequencies of the alleles or the genes of a population, if we get the value other than 1, it is going to indicate the evolution. So it is going to indicate the evolution, right? So this is stated as a genetic equilibrium. But the thing is that this Hardy-Weinberg principle holds good only when the population size is large. So whenever there is a big population, so this Hardy-Weinberg principle is going to get applied for that, and then there should be random mating. So the mating should be random, and third is that there should be no no mutation. Suppose if the mutation takes place, it has to take place in both the directions. And all the organisms should have, means they have to survive and they have to have the equal reproductive opportunities or the equal reproductive ability. So that only this Hardy-Weinberg principle is going to hold good for such a population, where means the population should be large and there should be no mutation, there should be random mating, and they should have the appropriate reproductive ability. So then only the Hardy-Weinberg principle is going to hold good for that population. So the Hardy-Weinberg principle states that allelic frequencies in a population are stable and is constant from generation to generation, where the gene pool is constant. So it is also indicated with the help of an equation, that is p square plus 2pq plus q square. So where the p is going to represent the dominant alleles, q is going to represent the recessive alleles, and 2pq is going to represent the heterozygous condition, means one dominant and one recessive allele, right? So whenever we make the calculation of the alleles, if we get a value 1, so it shows that the population is having the genetic equilibrium. Suppose if we are going to get the value other than 1, it shows that that population is under the evolution or under the process of the evolution, right? So now let us discuss what are the factors that are going to affect the genetic equilibrium. So there are 5 important factors that are going to affect the genetic equilibrium. So let us study them one by one. Factors affecting Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. Now then, the first one is gene migration or gene flow, right? So there are certain factors which are going to affect this genetic equilibrium. So what are the 5 factors that are going to affect the genetic equilibrium of Hardy-Weinberg is that the first one is gene migration or the gene flow. So migration is moving from one place to another place, right? So this gene migration can be of 2 types. One is immigration and emigration, right? So suppose in the migration means suppose there is a population, and that population, for that population, if there are new alleles or new genes are added to the present population, then it is called as a immigration. Means the other alleles or other genes coming from the other population and adding up to the present population is called as a immigration. Emigration means some of the genes or the alleles from the present population are going out for the other population, then it is called as a emigration, right? So this change in the or this flowing of the genes from one population to another population, so they are going to disturb the genetic equilibrium, right? So then second one is the genetic drift. So what do you mean by this drift? Means carried away. It might be due to the air or by the water. Means carrying away from one place to another place is called as a drifting or drift. So this, what do you mean by this genetic drift? Means when the gene migration, gene flow happens by chance. So by chance, if there is a flow of gene from one place to another place, then it is called as a genetic drift. So sometimes the change in the allelic frequencies can be so high that it can create a new species. Means it can give rise to a new formation of the new species. So this genetic drift is also explained by an experiment which is called as a bottleneck experiment, and it is also called as a founder's effect. So why it is called as a founder's effect? Means a certain alleles or the genes which are probably from the starting have drifted, so they are going to be the founders of the new population. So that's why they are called as a founder's effect. So let us understand the help of a bottleneck experiment. So the best example is bottleneck experiment. See, this is a bottleneck So suppose this bottle is going to have a bubbles of different colors. So red, white, yellow, black, orange, etc. Right? So this is a bottle which is having a pebbles of a different color. So some have mentioned here is red, white, yellow, blue, orange, etc. Means there is a bottle which is having a different pebbles with the different colors. So whenever we are going to make this upright, means suppose this bottle is held in the upright position. So only few pebbles are going to come out of this bottle neck. Means as the neck is very small. So this whenever we want to upright this bottle, only few pebbles are coming out. So probably that pebbles could be only red in color, right? Suppose this red pebbles, means only the red pebbles from this bottle have come out. So now these pebbles are called as a founders. Means they are going to survive and they are going to form a large progeny. Means they are going to give the large progeny. So that only we can have the organisms with the red population. So that's why this is called as a founders effect. Means this starting organisms or the starting pebbles which have come out from this bottle. So these are going to be the founders of the new population. So that's why it's called as a founders effect, and this experiment is called as a bottleneck experiment, right? So genetic drift means suppose if the alleles are flown from one place to another population, or if they are flown from the one population to another population, so then it is called as a genetic drift. So here this is the transfer of the gene from one population to another population is called as a gene migration of the gene flow. Suppose this takes place by chance, then it is called as a genetic drift, and this is also called as a founders effect, and it is explained by the bottleneck experiment. So coming to the next one, that is the mutation. We have already studied regarding the mutation. So what is mutation means? The sudden change in the gene is going to result in a mutation, right? So this mutation is the main basic or the main thing which is going to lead for the evolution. So mutation, if the mutation appears, then there won't be a genetic equilibrium. So the next thing is the genetic recombination. So what do you mean by this recombination? Is the combination which is different from the previous one is called as a recombination. So here genetic recombination means the mixture of the genetic material, so which is going to form a combination that is very different from the parent generation. So that is called as a genetic recombination. So the combination which is not present in the parents, so that is called as a recombination or the new combination of the genetic material, right? So this probably takes place during the formation of the gamete. Means the genetic recombination appears during the gamete formation. And the last one is the natural selection. Right? So what do you mean by natural selection? Means the process where the heritable variations are selected by the nature and only the selected organisms are going to survive and they are going to leave the progenies, right? So that is called as the natural selection. So these are the 5 important factors so that are going to affect the genetic equilibrium. Suppose in a population, if the genetic gene migration takes place or the genetic drift or the mutation or gene recombination or the natural selection takes place, then obviously there is a change in the genetic equilibrium. Means the value of one is going to be changed, which is a symbol of the evolution of the or the process of evolution. So gene migration means the movement of the genes or the alleles from one population to another population. So there are 2 types of this. Immigration means the new alleles adding up to the present population. Emigration means the alleles which are present in the population, they are moving away. So then comes the genetic drift. So if the gene migration or the gene flow takes place by chance, then it is called as a genetic drift. So it is also called as a founders effect, as the few organisms which are going to be a founders of the new population. So it is explained by the bottleneck experiment. So then mutation, the sudden change in the gene is called as a mutation. Genetic recombination, the mixture of the genetic material, so which is going to form a combination that is different from the parents. Then natural selection. It is a process in which the nature is going to select the fittest one and enables that to leave more progeny. So these are the 5 factors that are going to affect the genetic equilibrium, right? So now let us study what are the types of natural selection. So there are three types of natural selection. The first one is stabilizing. So stabilizing type of natural selection. So what is this stabilizing means? To maintain the nature properly in a proper manner. So here the nature is going to select only the intermediates except the extremes, right? Suppose if we take a graph. So here are the two extremes and this is the average, right? So in the stabilizing type of natural selection, the nature is going to select only the intermediates and it is going to exclude these extremes. So this type of natural selection is called as the stabilizing natural selection, and the graph which we are going to get after this is like this. So here the intermediates one are more selected by the nature and hence there is a growth in the intermediates, and whereas here also the extremes are present but they are present in a very low percentage, right? So this is called as the stabilizing natural selection. So the best example for the stabilizing natural selection is the sickle cell anemia. So we had already studied regarding sickle cell anemia. So the sickle cell anemia is having two types of alleles. So one is the HbA and the HbS. So we can have three types. So this is a normal, then this is a heterozygous or carrier, and this is a affected, right? So this is normal, carrier and affected. So here nature, whenever there is a malaria, so here whenever there is a situation of a malaria, then even the normal cells are not able to survive and the affected individuals are also not going to survive, but here the nature is going to select the carrier ones which are better survived in that condition. So this is an example for a stabilizing natural selection, that is sickle cell anemia. So in the stabilizing type of natural selection, the intermediates are more selected by the nature and the extremes are expected. Right? So the second type is a directional. The directional natural selection. So what do you mean by directional natural selection means? Here the nature is going to select the organisms which are more adapted. For example, if you take a industrial malarism or the DDT resistant mosquitoes. So the DDT resistance in mosquitoes or the industrial malarism. So even at beginning it is going to have the same graph. Here what happens is nature is going to select in only one direction. Right? Suppose if we take an example for industrial malarism. So that is before industrialization and after industrialization. So before industrialization in the graph, here before industrialization the black moths will be less in number and the white moths will be more in number. Right? So this is how the graph is going to represent the black moths and the white moths. But after industrialization, what happens is there is increase in the number of black moths and there are very less white moths. So this is a black moth. So this is a black moth and this is a white moth. So here there is a selection in only one direction. Only the black moths are selected by nature. So here the nature is going to select in only one direction or the more adapted individuals. So here before industrialization the white moths will be more adapted, whereas after industrialization the black moths are more adapted to the nature. So hence there is a selection in only one direction which is called as a directional natural selection. So coming to the last one, that is disruptive natural selection. So in this type of disruptive natural selection, what happens is, so the nature is going to select only the extremes and it is going to exclude the intermediate. In the like this. So these are the extremes. So this is one extreme and this is the other extreme, and here is the intermediate, right? So here the nature is going to exclude this intermediate and it is going to select the extremes, and hence there is an increase in the number of the extremes and there is a decrease in the number of the intermediates. So the best example for this disruptive natural selection is the snails in the seabed, right? So these snails are usually three colors. So that is white, brown and black. So the white is the dominant one. So we can, this is a dominant, this is an intermediate and this is a recessive, right? So these are the three types of snails which we are going to get in the seabed, and the color of the sand in the seabed is white. So obviously the white color snails which are present in the seabed, so they are going to get camouflage with the color of the sand and they are not easily visible for the predators. So then coming to the black ones, obviously these black snails, they are going to camouflage with the rocks. So the rocks are usually black in color and they are also not much identified by the predators, and they are also going to be increased in the numbers. But whereas coming to the brown one, so these brown color snails, so they are going to be easily identified even on the white bed or even on the rocks. So hence the number of the brown snails, it is going to reduce. So here in this one, this is an intermediate. So this is a white snail and this is a black snail, and here are the brown snails, right? So this is the intermediate, right? So here the intermediate one is going to get reduced in numbers as they are easily identified by the predators, whereas the white snails, so they are going to get camouflage with the sand bed which is white in color, and the black snails, they are going to get camouflage with the rock color which is black in color. But the intermediates one, as they are brown, so they are easily identified even in the sand bed or even on the rocks, right? So hence these brown snails, they are going to be easily eliminated from the nature. So these are the three types of natural selection. So the first one is the stabilizing natural selection. In the stabilizing natural selection, the intermediate ones are most expected, or the number of intermediates, or the nature is going to select the intermediates and it is going to exclude the extremes. So this is how the graph we are going to get after the stabilizing natural selection. So then coming to the next one, that is the directional natural selection. So here the nature is going to select the more adapted organisms, or it is going to select in only one direction, right? So this is how the graph we are going to get. And last one is the disruptive. So in the disruptive type of the natural selection, the nature is going to exclude the intermediates and it is going to support, or it is going to select only the extreme ones, right? So the example of the stabilizing natural selection is the sickle cell anemia, for directional industrial melanism, or the DDT resistance in mosquitoes, and for the disruptive, so we can give an example of the snails in the sandpit, right? So in the today's class we have studied regarding the Hardy-Weinberg principle and Hardy-Weinberg equation and the factors affecting the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, and also the types of natural selection. So that's all for the today's class, and in the next class we will be discussing regarding the origin of evolution, that is origin and evolution of a man, and also the story of evolution of the life forms, right? Thank you.